name is David Rathman, and I'm a painter. I do books, prints, and film as well, but primarily a painter. Primarily work in watercolor and ink. The video is related to the drawings in a way that I went back and made a film with the drawings, and also incorporating actual film clips from the movies I've been watching. So it was a way to kind of thinking about it as animating the drawings, but I wanted it to be something different than that as well. So I went for a certain kind of an atmosphere where it incorporates the live action sequence and the stills of past drawings. Also the music, the soundtrack is very important, and we worked very hard on that. I was after something that was very kind of surreal. It starts out very surreal, it slides into a narrative, kind of a read, and then it kind of moves back out again. I wanted it to be very poetic, and also to have kind of reference to the nature of watercolor paintings, things coming and going, coalescing and disappearing as well. I think it was for me when I found things that are really genuine for me in terms of subject matter and what I wanted to work with. It had to go back with things that were pivotal to me as a boy, and that had to do with sports. Having a very vivid interior life that was inspired by movies, westerns. I loved the westerns when I was a boy. I think it's, as the work plays out over the years, it is about men and it's about boys. I think it has to do with things about conflict, vulnerability, projection, conflict, rival, things that you see manifest in Western movies and in sports. I find myself in that arena over and over again. Obviously, a very strong influence with this particular body of work is the genre of the Western film, which I've enjoyed for a number of reasons. It's, for me, it's not necessarily confined to the genre of a Western. It's a vehicle for me. I'm using the subject as a vehicle to get to other things. The stories that are told and retold in the Western films are very archetypal. They go way back. Sergio Leone, who did a lot of the 70s Westerns, he said, well, these are old stories. They go back to Homer. And I was thinking about that, almost biblical Shakespeare. Very basic themes of good and evil and conflict, and things happen kind of outside of a real moral compass. And I'm trying to get the pictures to go somewhere that's not entirely obvious. It's very specific in terms of the subject matter, but I think it can be read as a metaphor for something else. Something else is happening internally within a person. I'm using words as titles, as legends, as also as internal dialogue, conversational, and then also I think they can be read as almost as you're hearing a voiceover on a movie or something. So I think that the words function on that level with the drawings. I'm very happy to this piece. It seems pivotal to me. It's very satisfying on a number of levels. It's exciting for me because I've done this material, the shapes, the figures, the landscapes for a very long time, and I'm looking for a variation when I paint. And this one is more than any one I've ever done. I really think I let it go with the medium of watercolor, which is one of the things I'm attracted to it. I like it because it's very poetic. It works as visually as a painting, and for me, painting is really exciting. If I keep looking at it, it can keep intriguing me. And again, part of the reason I use watercolor is that the medium and the surface becomes really exciting and stays exciting. You can keep looking at it, and it's not so defined. So it's a really alive painting for me. It's very mysterious. It's dark. It's kind of foreboding, but it's very alive. Yeah.
My name is Annelie McKenzie, and I paint in oil and other craft material. Femininity is important to my work because I want to embrace femininity. Usually, work is often seen as gender neutral, which to me, I believe that's actually a masculine de facto. I'm always interested in the combination of the gender of the artists that I reference, how the subject matter might be gendered, and the gender of the viewer, and how all of that affects perception. And for me, I want to elevate the feminine. Many people argue that femininity is a construct, and while I may agree with that, I don't think that it should be put down or abolished or avoided. I would rather embrace it and use it and play with it in my work. In this work in particular, art history, men's issues, when I was doing a lithograph, I was just doodling cartoons from my modern art history textbook. And it wasn't until the end that I realized that there were no female artists that I had doodled. So in this entire textbook, it was, maybe 98% male artists. And that presents me with an interesting problem, because I don't hate these artists. I admire them. I am a fan of their work, but I'm left with just a whole cloud of male artists and what could be seen as male subject matter. And I have to kind of seek out and go find the female lineage that I am interested in. I started creating work as a teenager. I got interested in drawing and painting, and I would do portraits of the musicians that I love, and I've always been interested in people and their stories. I started painting body prints of people, so this was the next incarnation of portraits that I was doing. And then that carried through into wanting to create almost like portraits of artists that I admired, but I am not drawing their likeness, I'm repainting their work, and also adding my own interpretation to that. I am trying to act as a scrapbooker, because I'm not trying to critique their work. I admire and I'm acting as a fan, and scrapbooking in itself is seen as a feminine activity, but it's also seen as a loving and admiring activity. Sometimes I am shrinking it so then you can project into it, and then other times I'm enlarging it, and that's more heroic and iconic, and that's another way of relating to people I admire. In this body of work, I've referenced Fragonard and the Rococo period. I'm also referencing Angelica Kauffman, who was a neoclassicist, and she was concerned with issues of virtue and painted allegories in form of women who represented color, design, invention, and composition. I've also referenced Vermeer and Marie Laurencin, Picasso, and a plethora of modernists. The impressionist quality, I think, comes from the accumulated blobs of paint, and to me that happens slowly over time, accumulating and building it up, and to me that is kind of a loving way of wanting to add more and wanting it to be really rich. And I do have a love of paint in general, and so I'm just making it bumpy and lumpy and material and corporal, and that's what I'm doing. Dinner Party with Laurencin and Picasso is an important work to me. It sort of sums up the issues that I'm trying to get at. Marie Laurencin, who was a contemporary of Picasso, Her painting is on the left side, and Picasso's Girl in the Mirror is on the right side, and there's kind of this white space in between. For me, this is a dinner party with Laurenson and Picasso, and I would love to sit down with them and learn more about what it was like for them in their time. In their time, they were both successful, critically acclaimed artists, but then over time, Picasso has become canonized, and Laurenson is all but forgotten. But I'm not critiquing Picasso, I'm a fan of Picasso. I'm also a fan of Laurenson, so for me I'm leveling the playing field a little bit, but at the same time it's hard for the viewer to look at both of these paintings at the same time because there's so much white space in between that I've put. And I think in the same way it's hard for us to hold both of those artists in our collective memory. We don't remember one of those people, and so I'm just sort of inviting her into the conversation. So that's great.